All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. 365, we making up plays. You talking the game, get you to the days. We're high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety topics living the same. All presentation, sports information. In the airways, taking the nation. All sport, all plays, they working your faces. Grace at the field, so tie the laces. All sports, all plays.
What is going on, everybody? This is Mike Hughes, and you are listening to the Skyline and Everything Chicago Sky related podcast. Obviously, you're watching this from the ASAP network, the All Sports, All Plays network. If the intro didn't do it justice, I've been all over the place today, so I had to rehearse that like 12 different times. We were just doing the CHGO podcast for CHGO Sky, so couldn't mess it up, especially because I have the Queen of New York that's not Sabrina Ionescu, someone that's better. The Puerto Rican version of Sabrina Ionescu. She's hooping all over New York, doing her thing. She is a host, a producer, a storyteller. She is one of the best queens of not only the WNBA, but the NBA and basketball as a whole. We are with Greydy Diaz. Greydy, I appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. One thing you forgot to mention was I'm also Dominican.
Man,
I'm proudly Dominican and Puerto Rican, so I always like to rep my
Have to.
culture. That's where my family's from, and just two places that mean a lot to me.
Have to, but I love my Puerto Ricans more than anything. So I had to put that first before anything. But no, we also play baseball over here, and baseball wouldn't be baseball without the Dominican Republic. So I do want to start off though, just to give everybody an idea. Obviously, you can find her on Instagram and all social medias at Greydy Diaz, because she had the luxury of getting her name. I have to have a whole different name on every account because someone took Mike Hughes, someone out there. But for you right now, tell everybody what you've been up to. What's new in the life of Greydy Diaz other than Breanna Stewart?
One thing that's really exciting for me this summer is that I'm a season ticket holder in New York. So I'm at all the games, not only as media, but still as a fan too. Somebody who likes to be as close to the game, covering the game, but also enjoying the game. So I'm kind of like in that middle of both worlds. So just being able to be in New York has been incredible. What am I up to? A lot, actually. So I'm in the middle of quite a few different conversations. I'm actually producing and hosting a show right now. It hasn't come out yet, so you'll hear more about it. And it just revolves around my life and the things that I do. As you know, I play basketball, I play tennis, I golf. I just picked up pickleball. I like to surf when I'm in Dominican Republic. So just kind of incorporating all the things that I enjoy and that I love that have to do with movement and being active. That's just a huge part of my life. So, this show will kind of showcase those things and a little bit more that you'll hear about in the future. But honestly, just staying busy this summer with WNBA. It's an exciting season. So just to be a part of the action is the best thing.
No, and I love that. And like it's honestly, I feel like it's a revolving door of just what are you doing today? And I feel like I do that every single day, whether it's coaching baseball, playing baseball, working at Wrigley for the Cubs, doing WNBA, a bunch of stuff. And so like I always love when I see you doing your thing, because it's like when I go on Instagram and I see what Grady's up to, it's never the same thing. It's always something new every single day. And it's just refreshing to see, you just living the best version of you. But I was pretty upset with you this offseason. I was not rocking with Grady or New York. Y'all stole my girl Sloot. And you know what? By stealing Sloot, you also stole Allie. So, a part of me, you hurt me a little bit. But I do want to ask you, because you talked about the offseason. It was so busy. What was it like for you? Because I know we talked via social media, but that whole experience, first the dominoes fall of, getting Breanna, getting Sloot with that. Obviously, John Quell came way before anything. Just bringing in this juggernaut gauntlet of all these stars that have made the WNBA probably as relevant as it's been in years. What's that been like for you as one of the biggest fans?
Honestly, just being able to land all the players that they were able to land this summer, I had moments where I was like, pinch me, is this real? Because to be able to onload the caliber of players to me was just a little like, people are going to have to take pay cuts. What's going on? How were we able to land all these people? And I know that, why wouldn't you want to play in New York? When I think of some of the best markets to play in terms of cities, in terms of amenities, in terms of owners investing, I think of the Aces and I think of New York. Those are the first two teams that come to mind. But out of both cities, New York's, to me, the better city.
Come on.
Hands down, hands down.
You go to Las Vegas to visit. You go to New York to live there. And I think I think I could say it. Being in the middle ground, I think I'd rather be in New York.
No, exactly. So I was super excited to know, that Jonquel was coming. She's Caribbean, so to be able to connect with her on that level, that would be cool. And her being in New York City, think about New York is incredibly diverse, multicultural. So she can have whatever she wants here, in terms of food, in terms of activity. There's everything and anything in New York. When we got Stewie, her coming home, I was just like, what a story. You know what I mean? She said that she wanted to continue to be great, and she wanted to do that here in New York and be closer to her family. I know her grandparents live in New York. So, raising her daughter and her, second child in New York as a multicultural family, I want to know what's that like for her. You know what I mean? Her wife speaks Spanish. So she's in New York. There's a big population of people that speak Spanish.
Right.
And then, to be able to land Sloot, a point guard like her, New York needed a point guard, a true point guard, so just, I mean, when I think of New York, you think of Sabrina, you think of just everybody who stayed, Benijah Laney. I mean, just to see that way that she's been able to play this season so far, she has like this, she had confidence last season, but she has this sort of like even heightened confidence. And I really like this for her. I feel like this team has been hers. She's been the captain. She's been the leader, but this is the year where I want to see more explosiveness from her because that's a huge part of her game. So right now I'm just trying to figure out, okay, how are they going to continue to work her in more? I think it's just as much, her team as it is everybody else's.
No, yeah, for sure. And I mean, that was the beauty of it. I felt like I even texted you. I was like, hey, if you could like save some free agents for the rest of us, like that'd be all right. I wouldn't be mad about it. But kind of getting into that, just like ripping the Band-Aid off. I know it's been not frustrating at all because obviously 4-2 on the season, your first loss at home all year long is against the Chicago Sky. And it's like, it's one of those things where you're not frustrated by the play because obviously they're winning games, but the way they're gelling right now isn't, and we say this all the time, this isn't 2K. Like there are emotions involved. There's chemistry that needs to be made. There is so many different factors that go into playing good basketball that are far more than just having a super team type roster. Like we look at the Chicago Sky just a couple years ago. It wasn't what it was last season. Last season, we brought in Emma and we brought in all these other individuals and it was this gauntlet and I was so hyped. And then here comes Kurt Miller and oh my God, I don't even want to get into it. Not even going to do it. But looking at that, obviously there's so many different factors. Splitting with the Sky, what was really your MO going into that series, and especially the last two games? Did you think you were taking both games against the Sky?
I knew it wasn't going to be easy. And I thought about Sloot the whole time. I was just like, this is our team. There's obviously a lot of emotion in that, but I was like, it's a new season. Let's beat your former team twice. So I was a little shocked more so by the second game, which was this past Sunday, because I'm just like, the team had been playing so well at home, like with crazy energy. Like they were just gelling. Everything was looking good. So this was the first game at home. So I'm not totally scared for the future. I'm just like, it's one game. The season is long. We have so many more games at home to still play. So I think, just kind of seeing something was really felt off on Sunday. And I don't know what it was. Some players were chucking up shots. They shot very poorly from the 3-point line, 24%. They missed a bunch of layups. They didn't make all their free throws. So I just felt like there was something that was a bit off, whether it was rotations. I know
Mhm.
Marine was back. That was her first home game. So to see her play was incredible. I thought she hooped very well for, someone that was just, coming back in her first game at home. So honestly, I think the second game surprised me even more because again, they had been playing so well at home. And now it's just like, okay, we have a game tomorrow against the
Right.
Lynx. It's you have to like have a short memory.
Right. And for me, it was, the most shocking point, and we're going to get into Jonquel Jones and a bunch of other things later on, but a total of 9 offensive points from Sabrina Ionescu in 2 games against this guy who, man, I love Sabrina, but she killed me last season when we had to play her in the playoffs because, I mean, she is just an ass when you have to play against her. One of the sweetest individuals in the world, one of the greatest players to play with. But if you're playing against her, she is going to be in your dreams. Like, this woman will not leave you alone. And I felt like offensively, I can't speak on like nagging injuries or anything that outside of basketball that might be bothering her, but she just didn't look like herself. And I think that to me was something that right now is going to be the experiment. We were just talking about it on CHGO about, how it's going to be trial and error throughout the entire year. And I feel like when you have a team like this, a team that's so talented and so driven. I mean, you look at 3 of these individuals on this team, and you could say they're top 10, top 5 players in this league. And between Jonquel and obviously Stewie and just maybe Salute. No, but Sabrina in all seriousness. And you look at that and you go, there's so many different schemes Sandy could throw out there. Are you running it through Jonquel? Are you running it through Stewie? Are you running it through Sabrina? It's her team. But I think that's really what the beauty of this season's going to be for New York is trying to figure that out by playoffs while building that chemistry. There's so many different versions of them I think we're going to see throughout the year. But for you, what are you most anticipating to see from a whole perspective? Because I know we're definitely getting into the whole Han thing and Dolson's role on this team with Jonquel and Stewie in front of them. But really looking at Lainey's ability to still be who she is and her ability to even still be on the team with that salary cap. Like, it's crazy to me that they're all still here. What are you anticipating to see from them from like a finished product? Obviously, I can't like ask you to say how it's going to look, but just assuming that they all play the way they should, what kind of style are you really looking for right now?
I can see them pushing the ball ahead a lot. I want to see them just moving more, like pushing the ball in transition. I feel like they have a large team, but I feel like they might not be the quickest, but they have the opportunity to. I think when they push the ball, I want to see
Mhm.
that a lot more as the season continues. But a lot of that has to do with trusting and knowing where each other, are going to be and spacing out the floor. So right now, I feel like we're seeing just that initial phase. So I think, further down the line, we're going to see, hopefully, I want to say 4 to 5 players scoring double figures every game,
Right.
and it doesn't have to be 20, it could be 10, it could be 15, but I want to see more than 3 players per game, more than 2 to 3 players per game scoring in double figures because again, you have to get on the board to win, right?
Right.
So, and that at the same time doesn't mean that Sabrina's going to score 20 a game or 15 a game. And I'm okay with that because at the end of the day, her role has to change. There are now other options. There are now more options. So I want to see this team continue to share the ball and know that, hey, anybody can go off on any given night.
No, for sure. And I think, you hitting on that was everything to me because I think looking at the last 2 games, I was kind of like, okay, well, game 1, Sabrina wasn't there. Game 2, Sabrina will be there. And she wasn't. And I felt like that was something that's just the growing pains of what the league is. I remember when the Sky first started off in the beginning of the season, it was so easy last year because it was the same team pretty much replicated minus Stephanie Dolson. You throw in Emma Mieseman, who I miss so much every single day. But in all seriousness, it's something that, even Vegas right now throwing in Candace Parker, it's not hard because it's already a championship caliber team that's played together. You just adding Candace Parker to the mix who doesn't need that time to adjust. Right now, when you look at this New York Liberty team last year, they were just happy to be there. And
Right.
they just took advantage of every opportunity and they were ready to go against the defending champs. And they did it fairly well. Like I tipped my hat off to him because Sabrina was talking her shit, and it was just a beautiful thing. Like, I asked her a question, it went viral on ESPN saying, I don't care who this guy are. And I was like, damn, like, you didn't have to do me like that. Everyone was looking at me after like I was an op. I was like, I don't even know. Like, I just asked her how she was feeling, and she just went crazy. But really looking at that and knowing that it's not that same team. Like, it is completely different. And I think that's something right now that Sandy's having an issue with. And that's not a knock at Sandy. I think every single coach in this league, from NBA to WNBA to wherever you coach, you bring a team full of superstars together, you're going to have to figure it out, and it's going to take some time. But someone that I think a lot of people aren't giving the time to right now is Jonquel Jones. And I know we could spend all day talking about it, but I do want to know how you feel about that, because personally myself, and I always make the Chris Bosh reference because I'm a huge Chris Bosh fan. Chris Bosh was not horrible on Miami. Kevin Love was not horrible in Cleveland. It was that everybody on a super team has to be that player who sacrifices. And averaging 9 points right now, that, like you said with Sabrina, I have no problem with that, as long as the team is winning. But where I do see kind of just where Jonquel isn't being the MVP of Connecticut, the star that we all know she can be, is from a board's perspective. She is such a great screener. She is so great at so many different things, but getting offensive and defensive rebounds, averaging 4 per game. What kind of Jonquel Jones have you seen in person the last few weeks?
Honestly, I know that she had been dealing with some sort of foot injury, so I know that they were limiting her minutes, but now they aren't. So I still feel like even though they're not limiting her minutes now, you can tell that she's kind of not whole yet.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm trying to figure out, when does she become whole? Is it 2 weeks? Is it 3 weeks? Is it a month down the line? But I know that in order for the Liberty to be successful as they want to be this season, they're going to need her. They're going to need a lot more of her. So I'm just, at the end of the day, I'd rather her struggle now. I'm okay with the start of the season struggle, but I think that there's maybe something that we don't know that's going on. And, I would love to know, what is that? Is she feeling 100% right now?
Right.
Or is she not? Because that absolutely affects, her play. And again, injuries can be nagging. I have no idea. That's something, between, her and her body, but we're going to need more from her. And it's probably frustrating for her too, to not be able to perform at the level that she is used to performing. In Connecticut, she was the option.
She was her.
She was her.
Right.
She was her. So obviously her role is going to change in New York, and has changed in New York. But at the same time, we still need her, a lot, not just a little bit. No, we need her. She's a starting player. We need her to grab boards, as you just said, to be a force, especially on the offensive side.
No, for sure. And it's, no one cares listening to this about me right now. It's not about me. But I was even telling you just a couple months ago that, I'm finally cleared. I'm playing baseball again after the Achilles tear. And, everyone's looking at me and they're like, man, you just keep hitting grounders, Mike. Like, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, dude, I don't feel like me. And that's something that right now, it's growing pains, whether it's a traumatic injury like that, or whether it's just something that's been nagging on you. Like, even a bruised heel can set you back months. And I feel like that's something right now that not a lot of people take into account, especially at a professional level. I'm out here playing against a bunch of 50, 60-year-old guys just having fun in the beer leagues and softball. But it's a serious conversation when you're talking about playing against Candace Parker and Asia Wilson and Kalia Copper, and the list goes on. And for me right now, I look at Jonquel and you could see it on her face that if this wasn't a super team, it would look a lot worse than it is. And I think that's something right now that, if you were to put her on Indiana 1-4 on the season, that would look bad. She's averaging 9-4 on a crap team, which I don't think Indiana's a crap team, but you look at the record, that's how people would view it. And I think that's something right now that, she has the luxury to be able to do, is when you have, these big pillars next to you and Stewie and Sabrina and Sloot, you can take that time. So I'm not worried about it whatsoever. I think Twitter needs to chill out, because it's 2-3 weeks into this season. We do not need to be tripping about it. Especially when Candace Parker's out here putting up games against Indiana, averaging 5 points. I don't want to hear any of this. And that's love the CP, but I'm just saying the consistency. And I do want to ask you though, because especially with Jonquel, kind of just not being herself, someone I'm so huge on and I've been huge on her for years is Han. And that is something that I can't get over. There's damn near a 7-footer just hanging out at the end of the bench. Why does Han not get the playing time, in your opinion, that I think she deserves?
That's a great question, and last week we saw the crowd literally request
Come
for her to
on.
come in. They were
And
like,
she did, and it was
and
beautiful.
and it was beautiful. But, Han, who grew 1 inch from last season, which is kind of incredible. I didn't know we still grow in our
Yes.
early 20s, but Han is still a young player. She's still developing a lot, and I feel like, you know, while I do want to see her get more playing time, I can kind of understand the
Mhm.
coach's, hesitance to do that. Um, but she's bigger than everybody. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? She's the
like
biggest player in the league. So I would at the same time, in order for her to grow, she's gonna have to get reps. She's gonna have to get in game reps. So my thing is, okay, if your team's up, if Liberty are up 10 points, put her in. Even if are up 5, at least early on in the game, I would love to see her get more minutes. That does a lot for what confidence,
mhm,
especially for her as a young player. And we already know that she's come into the season a lot more confident than any season.
right.
And especially one thing to note is that she now, which I believe translates, is her ability to speak English this season.
Mhm,
Last season, she had her translator all the time, and yes, she has her translator around, but Han speaks English. Han is having conversations in English, which I know is definitely helpful, with how she communicates with the coaches, her teammates. So I would just love to see her get more playing time, like, period. For her to not play in a game is just kind of like, all right, like, why? I
yeah,
now have questions. Why to the coach? At least give her like a few minutes, especially when your team is up, if that's what you're worried about, you
right.
know.
And the big one for me is, Sandy's a great coach, in my opinion. And you had the X factor in BG, and you had DT, and you were just so great at utilizing BG to the best of her ability and allow her to be the dominant force that she is. I mean, that's undisputed, over 500 days, and then drops 27 and 11 on the sky. And I was just like, back like she's never left. And I
Yeah.
was like, I hate you so much. I love her, but you know what I mean? Like, I hate playing against her. But it's something right now that I look at Han and I go, you're squandering an opportunity on a very cheap contract that could be one of the best bigs in the WNBA. And I feel like a part of that as well as size. Like I made a Giannis Antetokounmpo comparison last season with her. I felt like it's a very young version of Giannis, just like continuing to get her feet under her, continuing to build that strength from the lower body, because the injuries do nag her at times. And I feel like that's something that's definitely going to come as she continues to grow and just gets better at what she's doing. But a point that I was trying to make earlier as well, just talking about this with some of my buddies, is like, we had Lee on the Chicago Sky last year, and I love Lee. Lee, just like Khan, has an interpreter, is a superstar in her home country. And when you're just sitting at the end of the bench, Lee left in the middle of the season because China was upset that we weren't playing her or utilizing her to the best of her ability. And they said, we could use her back over here. Like, what are you doing with her? And I feel like Han obviously carries herself so well, and she's such a sweet individual. And her interpreter is even a greater of a person. Like, I love both of them. But looking at that, and I go, man, like, it's probably the most frustrating thing in the world, knowing how much you can bring to a team. And I think that kind of just speaks on the Liberty as a whole. But before we get you out of here, because I know Grady, again, like I said earlier, the busiest woman in all of the world. But she made the time today, and I appreciate it. It's something for me that obviously the expectations is a championship, but for you, what are you looking at as the team for a whole moving forward? Is it just winning games and just figuring it out as they go along? Or what point of the season do you want to start to see this team truly start meshing?
I mean, I feel like we've seen moments of them really meshing, and I've seen those moments more so at home because I've been able to, like, see it in person. There's no
Mhm.
better way to see it than live. So I've seen those moments of chemistry, but again, I'd love to see them just continue to build upon that. You know, I'm not gonna lie, I do want to see them in the finals. You know, I think they're a finals on paper, they're a finals team,
Right.
but they need to now prove that. They need to continue proving that, and you do that by playing well every single game, whether it's on, at home or on the road. But I am giving them still a little bit of grace. You know, they've only played 3 games at home, and only a few games on the road. So again, I think everybody, especially people on Twitter, need to give them that little bit of grace, because at the end of the day, yeah, they're great, but if you put any team of stars together, that doesn't mean they're going to win it all, right?
Right.
So I just, again, giving them time. I want to see Jonquel, as the season goes on, play a little bit better than she has been. And again, I know that foot injury has definitely played a part, but yeah, I want to see everybody mesh well and kind of really accept their new roles on their team, because everybody has a new role.
Without a doubt.
I
I think
have a question for you.
you hit me with whatever, Grady.
We let Sika go,
Man,
and I like her in Chicago. How do you feel?
I feel like, oof, man, Grady's gonna kill me. See, because now James is gonna be on my ass when he sees this. But I feel like she's so underutilized, and that's no shot at Alana or Morgan or anybody else. And it's very early on, like I said. But I feel like once she really starts to understand James Wade's defensive mindset, like if you can't play defense, I'm sorry, you're not on the team. And I think she can play defense very well. I just think it's that kind of tempo that he's really you're not trying to throw it to the wolves. You know what I mean? Like, you're trying to slowly integrate her into what we're doing. And I've loved every single moment I've seen from her so far. She's not getting the minutes that I initially thought she would get. But every single opportunity that she's gotten so far, I mean, I'm just loving it. Like, it was a little steal. It was a little cookie that just like Robin Parks. I didn't expect Robin Parks to end up on the Chicago Sky. She's out here chucking threes like Steph Curry, and I'm loving it. I'm here for it. And it's like, that's something for me right now that, another veteran that understands what they're doing and understands what playoff basketball is like. And that's something for me that when I look at this Sky team, it reminds me so much, because the 2022 team was a juggernaut. That 2022 team had the pedigree. That 2022 team added Emma and Rebecca and company. But when I think of this 2023 team, and it's not to put them in a box or say what they are, because they're their own team at the end of the day. I'm not trying to make it like Candace or bring up the past, because obviously the past is in New York with Steph and Court, because, Grady just does me like that. But it's something for me right now where I look at them as the 2021 Sky. And Sika is one of those individuals that has this amazing underdog type mentality to her, where it's like, I'm going to outwork you. And just seeing her and interviewing her the other day, just her presence alone is like, it's a James Wade Chicago Sky mentality. And that's why I think, I know you said you're going to the finals, but I'm just saying, to get there, I think you might have to see us. And I think that's something that beginning of this offseason, I couldn't have told you was going to happen, because I didn't know what this team was going to look like. But you got the queen of the fourth quarter and Courtney Williams. You got Alana Smith, Morgan Birch, who, if you haven't checked out that story, I interviewed her a couple weeks ago, really just breaking down everything she's gone throughout Europe and to now to be a rookie in this league doing what she's doing. Like, got some dogs over here on top of Kalia. I don't know if you saw, I think I sent it to you, the interview. I said, hey, did you have conversations with Sloot and Stephanie in pregame? Just looked at me, yeah, and just kept going. And I was like, okay, like, my fault, G. I didn't, my bad. It's bad blood. And I think it's all love, I think, for Ka at the end of the day. But I also know Ka. And I think every time we play New York, every time we play Azure Stevens in LA, or every time we play Candace and the Aces, like, it's going to be a dogfight with Ka. And that's why I had her as my MVP going into the year. I still do. But yeah, to answer, I know that turned into a whole different thing, but I just love the dogs, adding some people that want to fight, because you guys got the bodies and you guys got the numbers. But if these guys continue to fight and they continue to do what they're doing, I mean, I think they go tick for tack with just about anybody.
Absolutely. Hard work beats talent. So my talented squad in New York needs to really work. They're gonna have to work every single game. Just because on paper, as I said before, they're one of the most talented teams doesn't mean that they're gonna win everything, right? So they're gonna have to really work and really dedicate themselves to committing to each other this season, like committing to their goal, committing to their culture, and let's roll.
100%. Grady, we appreciate you for coming on. Can you tell everybody right now, if they haven't already, know where to find you, whether that be Twitter, Instagram, or wherever?
Sure. At Greydy Diaz on everything.
Man, it's just as simple as when you're one of the best, you just get your name. I gotta have the Shy Kid. I gotta have Mike Huggies. It's not even Hughes. It's Hughes spelled wrong because Mike Hughes was taken. Grady's got it all. Grady, we appreciate you coming on again. This has been Mike Hughes, listening to right now from the All Sports All Plays Network, Skyline, and Everything Chicago Sky related podcast. We will check you guys out tonight post game with interviews from Aaliyah Boston, Kalia Copper, and James Wade.